offline.
Okay, I'll go to the Facebook.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. See, now I've got this, but I can't get it to go. You fucking sons of bitches. Streaming, let's go.
Well, go back to that thing you just said. I have this, but
I do go on. Once we do all of this, turn that off. Turn that off for no particular reason.
there you go.
We live?
This seems like it's live. And they can see me, obviously.
Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Cobalt, can you hear us? Sean can hear us. Sean can hear us. All right, I'll go down.
Okay, all right. Hold on, I got a bitch here for a bit. One sec, guys. Hi, buddies. How's everybody doing? I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty here still, so we're working on it, but it looks like we're going to be able to good to go here. Good on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you very much. Hold on. I have to go. Hey, guys, one more second. Okay, let's close that up. Okay, all right, everybody. Hold on now. Let's get set up, ready to roll. Just had to read the riot act to the support people. It's really sad. Restream used to be super duper sharp, responsive, quick, and now they have changed their interface and are trying to tell me functionality that was there, been there for 3 years, that's gone, was never there to start with. It's really weird. It's really, hey, Brett Keeter. Hey, everybody. Hello, Abby. Hello, Christine. Thank you, Christine says, we have tons of seconds for you. Aren't you sweet? All right. Doesn't look like it, and yet I am live. Okay. Okay, let's see. All right, nope, let's go, guys. We're going to jump right into this. Let me just finish this up. All right, here we go. Got a couple minutes. It's rushed through everything, I guess, is what we're going to do. Things sound weird in here. I wonder what's going on. Everything looks the same. Going back to OBS. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it immensely. That's me. I'm looking at you, kid. I'm looking at you, kid. I believe the popping sound was probably typing. tell me if you guys no longer hear the popping sound. Anyways, those of you who are watching after the fact, we had support problems, so we're probably going to go story time shortly after that hits 0. Tonight is a live read of the 6th day of Deer Camp Part 1. We read the Days of Deer Camps about a year ago, but the audio wasn't high enough quality for the Death is Black audiobooks, so we are redoing them right now. Notice that we are moving the November 20th live stream to November 21st. Also, we'll talk more about this after the read, but my cousin's band Super Weapon has a live stream Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern time at youtube.com/wildcatguitars. He's been working on his proselytizing a religion. He made one up, so I don't think it'll end well, but that's it for you guys. And I was going to tell you about the new dad hats we have in the store, but since I have now spent 45 minutes on support with these people, hold on. They don't get it. They don't. Okay. All right. What else do I got to tell you guys? Nothing. Let's get to story time. Let's get to OBS. It's one of those where the support, I know there's a language difference. I think they're somewhere in Europe. But like I've now told them 3 times, I am live and can't text with you guys anymore. And they keep texting me back. And that's all in the same interface that we are sending this all out to you right now. Edward's hearing popping. Awesome. Popping again, no popping sound. Okay, right now, 3, 2, 1. Popping or no popping? Go. There we are. Things are, yeah, it pops when I'm typing. So I will stop typing. That's what I will do right now. There'll be no more typing. There might be typing later when we try and respond to you guys in the chat room. But everybody came to hear a story. Let's get into our story. So sorry about the delay. But we'll get it figured out. We'll get it. We got far bigger problems in the world right now than the stream not kicking off at the right time. I don't know if any of you watched the news today, if you're American, but it's been a spectacular, spectacular day. Let me get some tea. It's not Tetley's tea, but I feel all tea should be pronounced Tetley's tea. Here we go. No popping. Thanks, guys. Let's rock. Okay, here we go. Make sure I'm recording in Logic, which works pretty darn good. Let's hit it. Previously, on the 5th day of Deer Camp, George, Toivo, Bernie, and Jack are childhood friends who grew up together in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. They and Bernie's father, Mr. Ekela, spend a week every year at Mr. Ekela's hunting cabin in the remote woods. This year, though, their retreat shifted from a celebration of friendship to a fight for survival. What might be an alien ship crashed in the deep woods north of the cabin. The gang used spotty cellular service to read the news. There is an alien invasion afoot, one that has already destroyed several major cities worldwide. Armed with only hunting rifles, limited ammo, and possibly unlimited cheap beer, George and his friends face an unprecedented situation. Stay at the cabin and possibly encounter this alien threat, or attempt to leave in the dead of the night on foot, miles from the nearest house, while facing snowed-in roads and minus 30-degree Fahrenheit temperatures. Cold so harsh, it can put a man into hypothermia in minutes and take his life in less than an hour. The 6th Day of Deer Camp by Scott Sigler. George didn't want to be the one to say it, but it had to be said. We can't stay here. They all looked at him. Gloved hands flexed on hunting rifles. Jacko gave a tiny, weak shake of his head. Bernie closed his eyes and sighed. Toivo glared. Only Arnold Eckela nodded, older, wiser, but even he clearly wasn't crazy about the idea of leaving. The impossible had happened. An actual alien invasion. George and his 3 boyhood friends, and the man who had been a father figure to them all, were sitting in the same cabin they'd come to every November for almost 3 decades. A remote spot in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, the middle of nowhere, really, and something had crashed there. Something that wasn't a jet or a plane or anything else they knew. That something was out in the woods. The deep woods, behind the cabin, among the pines and spruces and birch and several feet of snow. They had seen it, a vague shape through the trees, red and green and blue lights filtering through the darkness and the wind-driven white. It was out there, this ship, and according to the internet stories they'd read on Bernie's phone, ships similar to it were attacking major cities all over the world. That was all the info they had to go on. Cell phones weren't working anymore, voice or internet. And even back in the day when landlines were all there were, the cabin hadn't had one. Why that ship had crashed here, George didn't know. Neither did his friends. What they did know was that 3 days of steady snow had choked the narrow backcountry roads, making them impassable by car. They could walk out on foot, sure, if they could survive the cold long enough to reach shelter elsewhere. The very reason they came to this cabin year after year was because there was nothing near it. In this weather, with the snowpack, it was at least an hour's walk to another cabin. There was one snowmobile, an old thing that had sat idle this year and last. George remembered firing it up 3 years back. Would it even start now? If it did, it could get 1 man out, maybe 2, but not 5. Just say it, George thought. Just tell them you should take the snowmobile because you have to get out of there, get to your sons, get to your wife. That little voice nagged at him, told him to use the parent trump card that all parents of young children used. But this wasn't getting out of work a little early to pick up the boys from soccer practice. This wasn't asking someone else at the office, someone who didn't have kids, to stay late because you had to get the babysitter home. These were his closest friends, men that he loved, and leaving them would be the most selfish thing. If they're really your friends, they'll understand. You've got kids. Just ask them if you can. Can't stay here, you say, Toivo said. We sure as hell can't leave, Georgie. Toivo had sobered up. Mostly. His eyes still looked tired, hungover tired, and a bit of gleaming snot stuck to his mustache. Dressed in a full snowsuit, over 2 sweaters, he looked like a brown Dressed in a full snowsuit over 2 sweaters, he looked like a brown Pillsbury doughboy. So did George, for that matter. So did everyone else. Toivo gestured to the cabin's ratty wall. What the fuck do you think we're gonna do outside, Georgie? Hide in the woods? It's fucking 40 below out there. George nodded. That was the problem, wasn't it? Cold was one thing. He was a grown man. He could handle cold, but 40 below wasn't cold. It was something else altogether. And then there was the snow, still falling steadily from the night sky, increasing the thick whiteness that covered bare branches and pine boughs alike, adding to the 3 feet already on the ground. That snow hit all the sticks and logs and foot-snapping holes around the shack. That snow hit all the sticks and logs in foot-snapping holes around the cabin. But there were no trees or sticks on the road. Nothing but snow there. The road would take them away. They needed to be on that road, and the sooner, the better. Get them all moving. It doesn't matter. Get them out of here and find a way to get home. Guys, that ship is close, George said. We're the only building in this area. He pointed to the cabin's small, black, wood-burning stove, which gave off heat that seemed far more delicious now that he knew he would soon have to leave it behind. The stove is putting out smoke. If they have IR, they'll see the cabin lit up all red or whatever and know that people are in here. Arnold's wrinkled face furrowed. IR? What the hell is that? Infrared pops, Bernie said. Like in Predator. Arnold's bushy eyebrows rose. Oh, yeah, like Predator. Those two, Arnold and Bernie, had such a strong father and son resemblance, they looked like before and after pictures. They looked like a before and after picture. This is you before you start to smoke, kids, and this is you many years after. Bernie was over 40, the same age as George and Jocko and Toivo, and with his full hunting cabin beard that had taken him only a week to grow. Sorry, that's bad. Fix that again. Bernie was over 40, the same age as George and Jocko and Toivo, with his full hunting cabin beard that had taken him only a week to grow. Arnold, white stubble in and on the folds of his tired face, his eyes peering out from behind thick glasses. This ain't a movie, Toivo said. This ain't about IR. This ain't about IR. Georgie, I love you, but stop lying. You think we can get to Milwaukee. You think you can get back to Milwaukee. A stab of guilt, like George had been caught in a crime. He couldn't lie to these men, at least not convincingly. They knew him too well. I do think that, George said. We have to get out of here, guys, at least out of the cabin. If they're killing people all over, they'll come here, and if they find us, they'll probably kill us too. Bernie walked to the stove. Hold on, guys. Okay. They simply won't stop messaging. It's crazy. Here we go. Bernie walked to the stove. We should put out the... Okay, here we go. Bernie walked to the stove. We should put out the fire anyway. If there's no fire, they can't see us maybe. We'll lose heat, but at least we're protected from the wind. Little Jocko shook his head. Putting it out makes way more smoke. Just let it burn out on its own. He was right about the smoke, but the tone in Jocko's voice made it clear he was more worried about the cold. Everyone looked worried, scared, but Jocko more than the rest. His oversized glasses framed wide eyes, made wider by thick lenses. He was the smallest of the five, always had been, so small that his rifle made him look like a preteen boy dressing up as a hunter for Halloween. He had children too, a pair of daughters. At 5 and 7, they were the same ages as George's boys. George had often teased Jocko that someday his boys would date Jocko's girls. Toivo tried to sling his rifle over his shoulder, but his snowsuit's bulk blocked him. We got guns, he said. He tried to sling the weapon a second time and succeeded. We can defend ourselves, eh? We stay here, we won't die from the cold. Maybe you forgot what it's like living in a big city, Georgie, but in the woods, you don't fuck with 40 below. Jocko righted a folding chair that had been knocked over when the alien ship had screamed overhead. So close and so loud, the cabin rattled as if struck by artillery. He sat. "Defend ourselves," he said. "Toivo, those things are blowing up cities. From what those websites said, they're taking on the military and winning. You think hunting rifles are going to do anything?" Toivo shrugged. "All right, well, I'm not a physicist," he said. "But bullets will probably kill those things just like they kill us." "Physicist," Jocko said, shaking his head. "You dumbass. Phys ed is gym." George didn't want to listen to them jabber. His sons were probably terrified, wondering where their father was. His wife was, well, she was probably loading the shotgun and getting the boys into the basement. No trembling flower, his wife. "Bernie, put out the fire," George said. "Sorry, Toivo, but we have to get out of here. I'm telling you, they'll come for this cabin. They crashed. They'll want to secure the area." Toivo snorted. "Secure the area? Who the hell are you, Georgie? Some Delta Force guy or something? Chuck Norris or something?" George didn't have any military experience. None of them did. Just 4 men in middle age, and one well past it, who knew nothing more about soldiering than what they had seen in the movies. Toivo pointed to the cabin's warped wooden floor. "We're staying here. They come, we got the guns." "If we stay here, we put out the fire," Bernie said. "I agree with George. Infrared." Jocko shook his head. "Don't put it out, you idiots. Whatever is in that ship probably has its hands full. We leave it burning, but we get on the road. I'm with George. I've got to get to my daughters." 2 men, George and Jocko, with little kids. 2 men, Bernie and Toivo, with none, and Arnold, whose grown son was standing right next to him. 3 sets of needs, 3 sets of priorities. Arnold coughed up some phlegm, then swallowed it in that abstract way old men do. "George is right," he said. "You boys get out of the cabin." George felt a sense of relief that Arnold, the man who had practically raised him, the best man George knew, was with him on that decision. "Okay," George said. "So we hit the road, we stay together, and we hope for the best." Arnold shook his head. "I said you boys get out of the cabin. I'll keep an eye on the ship, make sure nothing comes after you." Bernie rolled his eyes, as if his father's sudden act of bravery was not only expected, but annoying as well. "Dad, we don't have time for that shit," he said. "We're all going." "I'm 72 goddamn years old," Arnold said. "I've been faking it just fine, but there's only so much left in my tank. My bum hip is killing me. No way I'll make it in this cold sun. So you just do what your father tells you, and shut up," Jocko hissed. "You guys hear that?" They didn't at first, but the noise grew. Over the whine of the wind through the trees outside, they heard faint snaps and cracks. Something was coming through the woods. Something big. "We move now," Arnold said. "You boys come with me." One sec. Okay, here we go. It's amazing. Just take a break. They're still texting, and this is a web-based platform. So the web interface I'm using to stream to you guys is where their text messages pop up with that bloop every time it pops up. It's crazy. And I haven't been able to convince them that they need to stop texting. They did just text to threaten, though, like if I continue to text them in all caps, they're going to cut off the support call. So It's wild. Here we go. Let's get back into it. All right, here we go. They rushed from the house, bumping into each other, stumbling off the rickety two-step porch. Toivo fell sideways as he ran. The snowbank rising up from the thin path caught him at a 45-degree angle, so he didn't fall far. George had assumed Arnold would run for the road, but he didn't. He turned right and stumbled through the snow toward the cabin's corner. "Arnold, where are you going?" George stopped, but the others didn't. They followed Arnold. 3 men carrying hunting rifles, stumbling through snow that came up to their crotches, moving too fast to walk in each other's footsteps. Jesus H. Was the old man attacking? Jesus H. Was the old man attacking? They vanished around the corner, not running away from the oncoming sound, but toward it. George found himself alone. The cold pressed in on him. On his face, tried to drive through his snowsuit as if it were armor that would slowly, inexorably dent and crumble under the pressure. Out of the cabin for all of 10 seconds, and he already felt it. The porch light cast a dim glow onto the path. The blanket of white on the driveway and the walls of the same stuff that surrounded the truck Sorry, that's a little goof up on my part. Let's do that again. The porch light cast a dim glow onto the path. The blanket of white on the driveway and the walls of the same stuff that surrounded the truck made the truck look like a vehicle-shaped snowbank. He looked at the snowmobile, or rather, the curved hump of snow covering it. The keys were inside the cabin. He could grab them. The others had left him alone. He had to get back to his family. He could dig down to the snowmobile. No, that would take 20 minutes all by itself, and then the thing probably wouldn't start. He had to run, get as far down the road as he could. Little Jocko, Bernie, Toivo, Mr. Ekola. The people who had made him who he was. Go after them or head down the road alone and start a 360-mile trek to Milwaukee. From the other side of the cabin, heard the crack of a tree giving way, a brittle sound quickly swallowed by the snowy night. George could not do it. He could not leave his friends. "I'll get home as soon as I can. I will." He held his rifle tight in both gloved hands and ran to the corner of the cabin, stumbling through the snow just as the others had done. Most people don't know real cold. Sure, they've been cold before. They've sat through a football game in below freezing temperatures. They've experienced winter here or there, perhaps even been dumb enough to take a vacation to Chicago in December. All of those things are cold, but real cold, don't fuck with 40 below cold, that can kick your ass. That can kill you. George tried to stop shivering, but he couldn't. Wind slid through the trees, drove the cold into him as if he wasn't even wearing a snowsuit. 3 sweaters, jeans over long johns, 3 pairs of socks, gloves, and a hat with the hood up, and even a scarf wrapped tight around all of it to cover his nose and mouth. His hands felt like there was a steel vise on each knuckle of each finger, and the fingertips themselves stung like he'd sliced off the ends and dipped the raw stubs in battery acid. And he'd only been outside for 5 minutes. 40 below? Maybe even worse than that. Maybe far worse with the wind chill factored in. He followed the footsteps of his friends, mostly by feel because it was so dark. No porch light here. No stars. He wouldn't have been able to see anything at all if not for the barest glimmer from the covered moon that turned the snow gray. He had a flashlight in a snowsuit pocket, but he knew better than to use it. Most people don't know real cold, and most people also don't know real snow. The kind of snow that piles up week after week. A crispy layer near the bottom with the hidden logs and sticks. A layer so firm that when you break through it and stagger on, sometimes your foot slides right out of your boot. Above that, the dense snowpack. Then finally on top, several inches of the fluffy stuff. Every step sank so deep he couldn't quite raise his boot all the way out to take the next one. He was wading more than walking. So dark. The woods were nothing but shadows holding aliens. They had to be out here somewhere. Probably had already come out of the ship and were closing in. He should have stayed on the road. Should have gotten out of there while he could. "Georgie, get over here!" "Bernie." The voice was close. Shadows moved. Just left, heads peeking up from behind a fallen tree. The trunk smooth and softened by snow. George stumbled toward it, each step breaking through the crust and driving in with that styrofoam-sounding crunch. He felt more than walked the last 3 feet. He fell more than walked the last 3 feet. His friends caught him, pulled him down. His chest heaved, drawing icy knives deep into his lungs. They huddled together out of a need for warmth or, maybe, from pure fear. Another crack. That thing coming through the woods. George wiped his glove across his eyes, clearing away flakes that clung to his lashes. He rose up on his knees, peeked over the log. The cabin. It was so close. How could it be that close? It seemed like he had been walking forever, each step a battle, but he hadn't made it more than 30 or 40 feet. He was close enough to see smoke slipping out of the thin stovepipe, instantly ripped into the night by the unforgiving wind. The cracking again, a branch giving way, maybe an entire tree. And a new sound, a grinding, like machinery that had seen better days. In the woods, a shape, a big shape, backlit by the ship's red and green and blue lights. George slipped back down. He looked to Arnold. Shivering Arnold. Old Arnold. "Why?" George hissed. "Why didn't we run?" "IR," Arnold said. Like the Terminator." "Predator," Bernie said. "Like Predator, Dad." Arnold's body trembled horribly, like an invisible hand that had him between giant fingers, rattling him like some child's toy. "Heat, the heat," he said. "If they see that, they would chase us down." George stared, dumbfounded. They had followed this man here because of that reasoning. They could have been 100 yards down the road by now. Instead, they were closer to the oncoming threat. Arnold, the man he had once known only as Mr. Eckela, had been their rock once, but now he was just a scared old man who had made a shitty decision based on a movie he couldn't fully remember. "Hey," Jocko said. "Couldn't Terminator see an infrared too?" Toivo and Bernie thought about it, then nodded. George wanted to punch them all right in the nose. Over the wind scream, the cracking and grinding drew closer. George had a flash memory of a summer campfire some 30 years earlier. The night stars above, skin on his face and toes and knees nearly burning because the closer you sat to the fire, the less the mosquitoes and black flies bothered you. Mr. Eckela, a flashlight under his chin, casting strange shadows on his cheeks and eyes, telling a story of a killer with a limp. You knew this killer because of the sound, the thump drag sound. A good step, a good foot stepping forward, then the slide of the bad foot following along. Thump, drag, thump, drag. George had told the same story to his sons. It had scared the hell out of them, just like it had scared the hell out of him. And now, a version of that sound had him damn near pissing his pants. A version with the added tones of snapping branches and broken gears. Thump, drag, crack, crack, snap. Thump, drag, whir, snap, crack, whine. George's friends huddled down lower to the ground, pressing into the log like they were newborn pups nursing from their mother. Someone had to look. Someone had to know what was coming. George forced himself to rise up, just enough to see over the snow-covered log. Thump, drag, crack, whine, grind, snap. The thing broke through the tree line just 30 feet from the cabin. A robot, a big-ass robot, maybe 15 feet tall. 2 legs, the left stepping forward, the right dragging along behind, functioning barely enough to position itself so the machine could take another step with its left. Broken branches jutted out of tears in the metal shell or plastic or whatever the hell it was made of. Bipedal, no arms that George could see, but cracks everywhere. Breaks and tears and dents, smoke streaks. The thing was trashed. Part of the shell was ripped free near the top. Hard to see in the darkness and snow, but George could make out a yellow shape, a form that moved. Sweet Jesus. It was an alien. Thump, drag, thump, drag. The robot paused 5 feet past the tree line, big feet hidden in the snow. Something fluttered open near what George could only think of as the machine's hips. Then, a flash, and a rocket shot out, closing the distance in less than a second. He was already dropping behind the log when the cabin erupted in a fireless explosion that launched a hailstorm of broken board shrapnel into the woods, knocking free chunks of clinging snow that had withstood the blowing wind. George's ass hit the ground. He stared into the dark woods, mind blank. A hand on his shoulder. Jocko, leaning in. Georgie, was that the fucking cabin that just blew up? I have to get on that road, George thought. Gotta get to Milwaukee. Whatever it takes to reach my children, gotta find a way. Georgie! Yes, God damn it, Jocko, it was the cabin. The sound again. Thump, drag, thump, drag. Shit, Jocko said. Said it with such ferocity that it contracted his whole body, made his head snap forward. Screw that! Everyone, shoot that thing on 1, okay? Thump, drag, coming closer. 3, Jocko said. Counting. Why was he counting? It was a damn robot thing that blew up the buildings. Thump, drag. 2! Holy shit. Jocko was going to fire at that thing out there? Thump, drag. 1! And that is it for this week's story. We'll conclude with the 6th Day of Deer Camp Part 2 when we come back to you next week. What's the date on that one? Boop, 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 beep, boop. A's going to come on up. I'm sure of it. Yeah. So next week, it'll be the 21st. So it'll be Thursday the 21st, not Wednesday the 20th. There we go. All right. Got some other fixins to do while A comes on up. Let's get her microphone going. She is ready. Let's get her headphones up, which I always forget to do. Okay. Quit out of that. Stop that. Make sure we got all that stuff saved. Very good. Very, very good. You guys always give me the gas. All right. I can't tell how many people we have this time because hold on, mute this. This did not work out. All right, here we go. There we go. That helps us out a little bit. Yes, it was getting intense. That's actually half of the 6 day of deer camp. So it's the longest of the 3 stories. 7th day is going to be the longest episode because it's one chunk and it's much longer than 5th day of deer camp. Yeah, I'm okay. I'll try and figure this out, y'all. Danny Baker in the chat room. Let me get OBS back up front. There we go. Danny Baker in the chat room says, got to send out that super open live stream link, homie. Got to see that sheet. Well, it's an interesting thing because apparently the venue doesn't have a specific link or an event page. You just kind of got to go to. See if I can get this called up. I'm going to have to stop it quick. Thanks, Pumpkin. Sure. So again, that will be, boom. Good numbers on YouTube. I can't tell you about Facebook or Twitch at this point because I can't see any of that stuff. It's really weird how they changed everything on us. At youtube.com/Wildcat Guitars. That should go live Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific time. But if I were you, I would keep your eye on it all day because this sounds like kind of the broadcast part sounds like a little bit of a fly-by-night operation. I can't say for sure what's going to happen there. Let's get A on the screen.
Still
Pumpkin, you can talk to. Oh, look, everybody.
Still not this one?
I'll get that one in a second. Okay. But your headphones are up, your mic's on. I love the laugh track. So you talk and entertain the people while I get this fixed.
Hello, pals. Oh, you turned my mic on. Nice. I have nothing else to say. I don't really know what the situation is here.
Just chat with him. Just got to get this screen up. That's all. Here we go.
Oh, there we go. And do I have to press the little button?
No, you don't got to do nothing.
Okay.
You ain't got to do a goddamn thing.
Hey, Jude. Hello, friends. I see a lot of you have said hello to me. Today has been a crazy day. I had to fix my iPhone. I don't know if you guys, I don't know how it works for Android. And I don't know what you guys do if and when you discover a problem with your phone.
Oop. Keep talking. I'll fix all this.
And, I got the wrong light on me, but that's okay.
I'm working on it.
But I forget what I was doing. I got on Sunday, I think, I got sour cream in the little. I don't know what it was. It was something white. That's all we're gonna say. So I took my phone out of its case, and this whole back, which is pretty and brand new right now, was super shattered, and I had no idea.
Got it.
And it didn't matter when or why. Because I had it's new and it's got 15 days left of warranty. 15. So it was pretty nice. I applied, I signed in, I logged on, I did the thing, and I got it all repaired. And it didn't take very much time. There we go. That's what we want. Yeah.
More brighter or lower for you?
Try brighter. Lower. Now we're done. I'm gorgeous.
You're always gorgeous, Pumpkin.
So anyway, I've been all day trying to futz with this. And you know that old adage, like, just turn it on and turn it back off again. So I got my phone back at 2 p.m. It is currently almost 7 p.m. The first thing that happened when I got my phone back at the Apple Store is they turned it on. They got me hooked up to T-Mobile, and they got me hooked up to email. All my email accounts were there. I was able to text and call Scott. I tested, and I came home to do all the rest. And while I was listening to Deer Camp and texting you guys about the Yoop, what do you need to do?
I'm just going to bring the mic. Yeah, finish your story.
I thought, well, I'm going to turn
Perfect.
it off and turn it back on again. And now all my email is
Hey, that's
I'm
great.
very excited. I don't know what happened because that never really works.
Does that mean it's Dioop to the rescue?
It's Dioop to the rescue?
Dioop to the rescue.
Yeah. Do they have sour cream in the Yoop? Because I think I
Oh,
might not.
yeah, I don't know.
I
Hey,
don't,
you got,
I don't think I should.
You probably got to talk to Dr. Daniel Baker and Rob Out about that there. I don't know,
Well, they don't know either. They're from Yoop adjacent.
They know more than I do, though. They know more about the North than I do,
Houghton
Hancock. Now,
I
you
want to
guys
say Houghton Mifflin. But
I know. We're going to get to the deep cuts content, but those of you who might be newer to the world of siglerism, maybe you haven't heard the story that I went to Houghton Hancock Airport so that I could research Ancestor. And it's probably the only time in my life, I think I flew into Detroit and then we flew up to Houghton Hancock and I was able to rent a snowmobile at the airport. It was awesome. Like there was this little snowmobile rental. So I got off the plane at Houghton Hancock, got a snowmobile, just started out on them trails, Derry. And it's that to give you an idea of how rural that is. And I just learned, I think last week, Houghton Hancock, which having grown up in Sheboygan, I thought that was a city. I thought Houghton Hancock was a big city. It's roughly twice the size of Sheboygan. So not necessarily.
I mean, that's a big city coming from Sheboygan.
Oh, yeah.
But also, that's Houghton is that big. Houghton Hancock are two towns in the Yoop.
I thought we looked it up. Isn't they're combined?
Oh, maybe. Well, you did the looking up of the population.
I think they're one city now. Houghton Hancock, eh?
Well, on the map, it's just Houghton.
Oh, just Houghton. Okay.
I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Houghton.
Okay. Well, there we go. And we got to get this brightened up a little bit. This looks terrible. We're not going to worry about too much. Everything else it's been a very difficult day of getting all the content together. We'll tell the rest of the ancestor story sometime, but it was a disaster.
You can go ahead.
It was a disaster. All right. We'll tell this real quick. So if you guys have heard this before, go gather a drink. If you haven't,
gather.
Tonight, we meet behind the elm and we gather our drinks.
I'm saying it wrong. It's Houghton.
Yeah. What'd you say? You said Houghton.
The double vowels are hard for me. It's like Houghton.
Well, that's if you live up there. That's Houghton.
No, for a New Yorker,
the
double vowels are a little
like
a lot
laundry.
Too. Like laundry.
So here's the thing. I fly into Houghton Hancock. I have my black MacBook, the old black clamshell one, and the first, I think it's kind of the first laptop they had out. And I had booked 7 days at a cabin up into Yoop there, so I could ride a snowmobile up to the Keweenaw Peninsula, right to the very tip, because that's where the story was set, and to try and get a better feel of, the deep north Yoopers and all the other things going on. Fly into the airport, rent the snowmobile. And
crazy.
The question that you get asked when you rent the snowmobile is, well, first I'm like, well, here's where I'm going. What do you guys recommend? They're like, oh, there's 2 trails there, eh? Okay, there's the one trail everybody follows, and then there's the new one, And I was like, well, I'm literally channeling Jack London. I'm going into the bitter Arctic cold on a snowmobile to research this book. So I'm like, you know what? Show me the one that's less traveled, so to speak.
The snowmobile route less traveled.
The snowmobile route less traveled. Now you start out on the same trail, and I highly recommend, if you guys ever want to go snowmobiling in the UP, Houghton Hancock, Keweenaw Peninsula, the main trail used to be a railroad track, and it's great. It's up, you ride in a snowmobile, it's perfectly safe, and you go maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and there's restaurants to stop at. You can go in, you got to undo your whole snowsuit to pee, but it's rustic and wonderful, and the people are delightful. It's fabulous. The new trail, however, what they didn't tell me was it was a logging trail for trucks, and they had abandoned it and turned it into a snowmobile trail. And the only way to know it was a trail is because there were these little red ribbons tied up in the tree, and they were faded and wind-worn and basically barely pink. You could barely see them. I was told to follow the ribbons on this trail, and it did not go well. So we start out, and when I got a snowmobile, I took my black Macintosh case and I strapped it down to the back, and I had a 70-pound backpack, everything I would need for the whole time. Start driving on this trail, and at some point I realize that my Macintosh had fallen off. I am not a quartermaster, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how to tie knots. I thought I netted it down, thought this was great. And I'm like, holy fuck, that's a work computer. I'm fucking doomed. So I turn around.
Wait. Was it an actual work computer?
Yeah, it was my work
was
laptop.
it your writing laptop?
It was both. It was both.
But I mean, somebody else paid for that computer.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
I didn't know that part.
So I start going back down the trail. And at this point, I'm only seeing another person every 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes. And I go back down the trail. I'm trying to hurry up down the trail and find it before somebody runs it over. And it turns out I ran it over. I went right over the top of it. Ran right over the top of it. And I was like, I am so dead. First of all, I'm going to be up here for a fucking week. I have nothing to write with. The whole point was I took a week's vacation to write this book.
And it's not like you can be like, cool, I have a whole vacation. My flight's not for another week. I'll just hang out at bars and absorb life.
That was largely the plan. In the chat room, Chris Grawl says, if you can't tie a knot, tie a lot. I did. I had a net over the top of it and bungee cords and all kinds of stuff. So
might have needed one more.
You sass me like, oh my God. So I find my snowmobile, I find my computer and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I think I'm doomed, but it seems like it's okay. There's a lot of snow. I went over the top. Everything's cool. We'll get back to that computer in just a second. Then we start driving. And now I start driving. I'd say it's about 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night. And
what's the light situation?
Lights starting to it's winter.
Okay.
Lights starting to come down, but I got plenty of light. I mean, it's a peninsula. If I just go in one direction, I'm sure I'm going to be fine, right? And then the logging roads start to dip like 5 to 6 foot dips and rises. And even when you're driving slow in a snowmobile, when you have a 70-pound backpack on you on the snowmobile, is just constant. So now I'm just getting, at first you're like, oh, it's no big deal. And then after the first hour, second hour. And by the second hour, I'd gone at least an hour without seeing telephone pole, car, and road that's traversable or another human being.
And this is the 90s.
Yeah, this is the early 90s. Yeah, early 90s. So at this point, I am not happy, but I'm like, it's going to be fine. If I go in one direction, I'm going to hit the coast and I'll take the coast north to my cabin, which is right up near the
Or
tip.
as Chris says, when you're on a peninsula, you drive till you get wet and then you back up a little
That's
bit.
what I was trying for. Turns out that the FDO's ability to look at a map and try and gauge how much territory there is, the Keweenaw Peninsula doesn't look all that big. It doesn't. It's like this big.
Mr. Sigler.
It's like,
Mr. Sigler.
yeah.
How big is it?
It's big enough that you can drive for 2 hours on a snowmobile and not see any sign of civilization.
That's real
No
big.
sign of civilization. Now it's starting to get dark. Now I'm getting a little bit worried. And I'm like, oh, Christ. And it's getting real cold. So at this point, I do know how to build a lean-to and a fire. I brought my survival knife.
Wait, were you a Boy Scout?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're the
Cub
boys.
Scout. Cub Scout. Not Boy Scout. Cub Scout. So,
Dan, Rob, were you guys Cub
no,
Scouts?
I don't think they were. Yeah, Rob says I have math, same issues. I'm not good with either of them. So I'm like, by my best guess, I've got about 35 minutes left before it gets dark. And I'm also, here's the best part, running out of gas because I've been driving for far too long.
I mean, because you were going the entire,
I've been
what's the name of
driving
the peninsula?
the Keweenaw Peninsula.
Keweenaw
I'm driving.
Peninsula.
And Rob Tennerell asked if you're feeling better.
I am, thank you.
So we're driving. There's a couple other things that happened that I will leave out, but they're very funny. One involved having to urinate on my snowmobile engine, which is a whole separate thing. It's not a kink. The gas line was frozen. I get to a point and I'm not panicking, but I'm pretty sure I've got turned around. So I'm doing that thing between how much sunlight is left, how cold it's getting, how much gas I'm getting. And I make the decision, I think my best bet is to just turn around and go back. Try and see if I can make it back on the path that I already went on because it's got my single track because no one else was there. And I went off of this logging trail to turn it around and the snowmobile immediately sank in 5 feet of snow. It went down like an elevator. It was like whoop, straight down. straight down. So now my snowmobile is in a fucking hole of snow. And you people who've never been up north who think I'm exaggerating when I say the snowmobile sank in 5 feet of snow, I am not exaggerating.
I almost spit
It was
my
up to here.
Sprite on my laptop when you went.
So now, not being very experienced snowmobile, I'm like, how the fuck do I get this thing out of here? And it was then that the heavens parted and the angels came out. Oh, and I heard the distant hum of another snowmobile.
Was it Toivo?
It wasn't Toivo. It was basically Mr. Ekla. This guy came coming down the other way. He's like, oh, that's in there deep, eh? And he got off, and you can tell he's got one good hip and the other one's not so much of it left anymore.
It is totally Mr. Ekla.
Mr. Ekla.
Yeah.
He can tell, he's like, here, I'll help you with that, eh? And like, he has obviously gotten snowmobile stuck a million times. He was able to direct me, and I'm like, thank you so much. It's like, it's getting dark, and I thought I was getting close to the cabin. He's like, oh yeah, if you just drove 5 more minutes, it's right up there, eh? So I had basically turned around right at the edge, and then I get to the cabin, I'm freezing all of my bits off. Get there, I get checked in, and I'm the only person at the whole place, guest staff, who doesn't have the big, thick Uper accent. And I'm like, great. And they're like, well, we got dinner in there, eh? We have some beer. I'm like, I just want to go to my cabin. And this is the final part of the story. So on this Mac, I was delighted because I was able to get Madden on the Mac. It was a big deal because Madden you could play on PCs or the consoles, but you couldn't get on a Mac. So I had Madden on a Mac, and I fire up my Mac. I'm like, there was a fireplace in my cabin. Fabulous. Get in there, very rustic. I'm just going to relax and play Madden. Played about 2 hours of Madden, and then the computer battery ran out. Because when I ran over the computer with a fucking snowmobile, it turns out the computer worked fine, except I had broken the connection between the charger and the battery, which I couldn't see. And there I spent 7 days in the UP in a cabin.
Doing what?
Finding things to write on paper. That's like,
did you bring paper?
No, I had a computer. Why would I need fucking paper?
Was there a bar nearby? Or say an Applebee's or a Chili's or a mom and pop shop or something?
No to everything except the bar, because the bar was the part of the place where you rent the cabins.
So did you bring food with you?
No. Well, yeah, there was a bunch of food in the backpack, which I was going to try and use to save money. But wound up hanging out in the main lodge a bunch, met some delightful people, got to go on a bunch of snowmobile expeditions. And if you guys remember Ancestor, or you haven't read it, it's one of my favorite scenes when PJ Colding literally gets to the tip of gets to the tip of a peninsula on the island. Mm-hmm. And as far as he can see, it's just white. The ocean is white, or the lake is white, because it's these giant big chunks of snow. And they're all undulate, no whitecaps. It's like there's this much chunky snow floating on top of the water.
Oh, cool.
And it looks like, just giant styrofoam as far as the eye can see. And it makes that squeaky noise. They're all squeaking against each other. So being out there at sunset, watching that, all of that made its way into Ancestor. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So there you go.
So if you had to estimate, and I know that they were far away, mm-hmm. How big were those pieces of snow and ice?
Like that? The biggest
So they were smaller
like
than a washing machine.
Oh, yeah.
And they still squeaked.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of little ones around there with them.
Interesting.
And it was so weird because you would think these things would get soaked with water. But for whatever atmospheric or cold conditions, they think the part above the water just didn't thaw.
The reason I ask is those were teeny tiny icebergs, essentially. Because that's true of icebergs too. I've seen icebergs, and when I saw icebergs, the guides that I was with literally had to say, "You're going to hear squeaking, and you're going to wonder if people could be quiet, behind you or whatever." So, and it was the icebergs squeaking.
Yep.
So they had to tell us ahead of time, like, that is not artificial.
The squeaking was...
Yeah, so it's so cool that they were like smaller than you and they still squeaked.
Yeah.
The reason they didn't melt is that they were colder under the water than above the water,
mm-hmm.
or vice versa. So when that happens, the liquid water flows one way or the other, and that is the thing that makes it squeak.
David Lamb says, the snowmobile company must have loved it when Scott returned it. And Dr. Daniel Baker, PhD, says, one does not pass over pissing on a snowmobile because your fuel line is frozen. All right.
Yeah, one does not.
Well,
I wasn't going to mention it because I thought he didn't want to bring it up.
I was going to leave this part out.
I was going to leave it out too, but I appreciate you.
I've had the snowmobile for half an hour, maybe an hour. The sun is shining. There's gorgeous snow-covered trees everywhere. I'm on top of this former railroad tie.
And on top of the world.
I'm on top of the world, and it's beautiful. It's great. And I idolized Jack London as a young man and as a writer, and always wanted, I want to go out. I want to go do the adventure to write the book, right? And so I'm loving this. This is great. Pass by a little lodge there, and they got hand-painted signs out, like beer $1, pasties $2, and I'm like, oh, I'm going. Park the snowmobile along with 20 others, get in there, have to, get half out of the snowmobile. Everybody's walking around with the half snowsuit on, like the bottoms are on, but the tops are all just dangling.
Because they're otherwise sweaty because they've been in the lodge.
It's hot. The lodge is hot. So I go in there, and I had awesome food, had a beer, maybe two, not too much. And I come out.
You didn't want to get into an accident on the snowmobile.
Correct. The last thing I want to do is go to a UP jail. I'm not sure what they would look like, but I don't think you want to see the inside of one. And get the snowmobile, and it's a little sluggish. And I get it out onto the thing, and then I think I stopped to rearrange the pack or something like that. At this point, there's not many people around. Get on the snowmobile, won't start. It just won't start. And I'm like, I know I got gas. I got like at least 0.8 of a tank of gas because it was full when I left. So I'm stuck. Now there's nobody when I need people. I'm stuck. And then here's a mobile coming. And here comes a mom with her white and pink Arctic Cat suit and her pink snowmobile and 3 little daughters behind. They all have there's some rich people up there, I guess. They all match, and they're all handling their machines. They come by, and she slows down. She's like, are you having a little trouble there? I'm like, yeah, it won't start. She's like, oh, yeah, I think you got to pee on the fuel line to thaw it out. And I'm like, yes, as soon as you leave, I will pee on the fuel line.
Did you actually know that?
No.
Okay, thank God.
No. And then she drives off, and I'm like, well, that fucking bitch, that was rude as shit. She gonna make fun of me in front? Because I don't know how to fix it. I didn't do it.
Wait, but she pulled over, right?
Yeah.
She pulled over, stopped, took off her helmet.
Yeah.
Took off her giant.
No, she didn't take the helmet off. She just communicated, and she went on with her pack on their little cubs went on their way. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like trying to prime the fuel pump, and I'm just trying to start it. And some guy comes by, and this is how mansplaining worked in this particular situation. So this good old boy comes out, and he's in a Polaris. It's red. It's beat to hell. Clearly, it's been in the family for like 30 years. It's like an old 60s snowmobile. And he comes out like, having a little trouble there, eh? And I'm like, yeah, I can't figure out. I'm trying to get it started. I know I got gas. He's like, yeah, you got to piss on the fuel line there. It's frozen, I bet. The fuel line's frozen.
So did the girl in pink, did she say pee on it?
Yeah, she did say pee on it.
And he said piss on it.
But as soon as he said that, I was like, Jesus Christ, she was telling me the truth. God damn it.
I absolutely crazy love that your only version of mansplaining I know is this one. And then the good old boy, he's like, hey, you know what? Hold on. I'll take care of that for you. And I'm like, no, sir. No, sir. I'm fine. I'll handle my business. Could you just, go on down the road? And he did. And I pissed on the fuel line. Damn thing started right up. I love the customer service, though.
It was great.
He's like, I want you to enjoy the UP. I absolutely want you
Chris,
to.
I did not pee on the battery.
Say you absolutely like a Youper.
Okay, absolutely, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want you to come back to the Youp. It's a great place to visit.
Yeah.
So you have to piss on the fuel line.
I have to piss on the fuel line. So to sum up the story, a snowmobile vacation in the Upper Peninsula to sled your way up to the tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula in winter. Cannot recommend it highly enough. It's probably fairly affordable, but it's fantastic. There's literally nothing like it that I've seen in my life. Just, stay where the people are. The UP. God, Daniel Baker, so clever. Daniel Baker says the UP. Are we going to attempt to do this show?
We can if you want.
Well, we got to put some in the fucking feed. I didn't record any of this.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, you know what?
This.
We're gonna okay. Show of hands in the chat room. How many people came tonight to find out where people get their book recommendations? Because we may just kick that down the line a little
and
bit.
Keep talking about the UP.
Yeah, and I'll just strip this audio out from the streams.
That's fine.
Steve, you're gonna have a tough time with this. Sorry, buddy. I wasn't recording any of this. But wait, let's see.
But it's in descriptor, whatever, like we used to do. Like we used to do, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll see. Okay, we're going to watch the chat room for a bit. Is anybody here specifically to hear about the book recommendations? We'll be happy to do that. We also will do that next week when I don't spend 45 minutes before the show trying to get the stream going.
And again, next week will be on Thursday, not Wednesday. Thursday, not Wednesday.
Yes, I'll be in LA. Got to talk.
LA, yeah.
Got to talk some. I don't know if that works. Got to talk some business.
Oh,
no,
trust me.
it's like this. Got to go up to LA.
Well, yeah, if you're talking in an LA accent, you can do that. But if you're Youper going to LA for work, you can go LA, yeah. I will tell you, this doesn't really relate, but it kind of relates. So, of course, you guys know my name is A. And I joined a company when I got out of college and moved to California, who was a Canadian-based company, and they were in Winnipeg. And Winnipeg, I hate to say this, I'm very old not to know this, but what I will say is Winnipeg, not the biggest of the cities are in Winnipeg, I don't think. Because I think it's Toronto's in Ontario. Okay. Anyhow, somewhere in Winnipeg, this tiny little company.
Danielle Bird's in the house.
Oh, hey, hello again.
Danielle, you just missed my whole story about snowmobiling into Yoop to the Keweenaw Peninsula and urinating on the snowmobile so that I could get started again. Sorry, you missed that.
So I joined a company that was formed in a small Canadian town. Mm-hmm. And while they are global now, they weren't back in the early 90s. And so when I went to work, the office in San Diego that I went to work in was populated. They were opening it up. So they had moved their upper management and a handful of their staff from Victoria, BC, to San Diego. And I joined, and I was like the 11th employee. And the first 8 employees had moved from Canada.
Okay.
So I spent the vast majority of my day going, yeah, no, oh.
Don't touch the microphone. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, don't touch what?
Don't touch the microphone.
The microphone, yeah. But like going, oh, did you say A? Oh, no, not me.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Not me.
Okay.
Oh, no, okay, okay. And then I would go back to work.
How did I not see that coming?
Looking on my computer. Oh, A. Oh, not, A. Oh, I get it.
Okay.
For months. And I will say this. The 2 friends I still have from that time who still live in San Diego no longer have Canadian accents because they got so tired of me going, yeah, me, what? Oh, not me. Okay.
Perfect. Come a little closer to me, Pumpkin. Come a little closer. Don't be shy. Okay. Yep. Well, so now what we're going to do is, what time is it, baby girl? We got 7:11. So what time? We're usually done by now.
Yeah, we might be
so
done.
So now, can you grab that side of the monitor? Pull it toward you a little bit. But now a little toward me. Boom. Look at you. You're like an engineer.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought?
I couldn't remember what that
Not me. Not me. Look at us. Hey, look at us. Who'd have thought?
It took me a minute to remember. It did not go well.
All right. So that was my ancestor story. And I think it got pretty much everything in there. But I will now tell you the Earth core research story of my Jack London phase. And that will be it'll be Scott's stories of how when he thought he was an adventurer. That's what be this deep cuts.
Your personal research history for your novels.
Yeah. So doing Earth core. And remember, when I did this ancestor research, not published, no publisher, making zero money. There's nothing going on, right? I do that all out of my pocket, use my vacation time because I was working, the regular job, the 2 weeks vacation, burn half of that for this. So for Earth core, I did the same thing. So I wanted to go to the Mammoth Cave System in Kentucky. the longest contiguous cave system in North America. I don't think it's the world anymore, but at one point it might have been. And I'm going to go on the wild cave spelunking trip. Go ahead, babe. And what that means is you can go to Mammoth Caves in Kentucky. Again, great vacation. Fabulous. You get to go in. There's tour guides. It is absolutely spectacular. You will see stuff. If you've never been through a big cave system, highly recommended. It's fantastic. And everything I saw there informed or influenced Earthcore. Okay? So that, if you've read Earthcore, that vacation was a lot of it. Here's where it gets nuts. Now, you can just take the regular old tour. You know, they got walkways and handrails and all that other good stuff. You know, there's a snack shop and there's a bookstore, you know, gifts.
Fancy.
Get some candy, maybe get a soda, you know.
Seems exciting.
It's delightful.
And very ADA friendly.
Yes, very ADA friendly. There's families and old people and little
AC.
kids. It's great.
Soda machines.
The soda machines.
Ooh, pop machines.
I decide I am going to go on the Wild Cave tour, which is very different from that. That, number one, you have to sign the waiver, the death waiver. Mm-hmm. You have to sign the injury waiver. And then you get a guy who's like a Phil Hartman episode character. He comes out, he's like, all right, you're all going to put on your helmets. And this is how your helmet lights work. If you take off your helmets, you're out. If you turn off your lights, you're out. You don't do what I say, you're out.
They were very impressive, very hard tees.
I mean, I think it might have been hard tees, but I'm pretty sure he was missing a couple of teeth. Maybe he rode the rails once, and I don't know.
Without a helmet, apparently.
But this is like a 6'3" guy, right? And he's not fat and he's not a bodybuilder, but he's also not super skinny. He's a normal, athletic 6'3" guy. And we get the party together, and Scotty's vision of what's going to happen on this tour goes from, I'm all about the research. I'm all about the research. I'm all about the research. Holy shit, look at that girl. And I'm like mesmerized by this lady. And I'm like,
do we have a name for this lady?
Oh, there's no name. Once I get to the end of the story, you'll understand why. So at this point, being a young man in my 20s, I know what's going on. I got pretty good patter, right? I'm like, geez, she's here doing a cave tour. So clearly she's fucking cool. And she's doing the non-safe cave tour. Awesome. So at this point, I'm like, and I kind of, hanging out and starting conversations with her. She's really cool. Everything's really cool. But we get to a boulder cascade area. And, Phil Hartman comes out and goes, you're not going to try to go down this fast. If you do, you're out. You're going to go down on your butt. You're out. And here, everybody puts on the harness. You don't put on the harness, you're out. I'm like, this guy's had a rough life. So we all put on the harness. But now we're down, I think at this point, we're 200 feet underground, which doesn't sound like a lot. It's a lot. There's no sound without.
It's a lot.
If you're not making the sound yourself or the people around you, it is dead quiet at a level I can't possibly describe unless you've experienced it. This isn't being out in the woods where it's very quiet. There's no noise. There's no there's nothing. You can hear your heart. You can hear your own breathing. And it's a little bit spooky because every now and then, Phil Hartman would point out, that guy died there in 1812. Kicked that rock out. It fell right on him. Don't touch that rock or you're out.
So is it time enough in the world where you have some sort of phone on you?
There's no phones. There's no.
Okay, just checking because that would have had a light.
You really
on
only
it.
need to go 15 feet below ground unless there's a repeater. There's no light.
No. But did you have a device?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't think it was my Nextel phase at that point. I don't think so. But you're issued a flashlight.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Two things then happen, which one of them informs Earthcore and the other is just fucking embarrassing. So the one thing that happened is we went through, as you guys can see, or if you've met me, I'm not a very physically imposing guy. I'm not a very big guy. I'm a little postage stamp of an angry man of Jewish and German descent, right? And we go in to this area and Phil's like, all right, this spot here, you're going to go through that. Now, it looks like you can't fit, but you'll fit. You're going to have to push your helmet out in front of you. The hard hat on my head.
Oh, I remember this scene.
It's this big. I had to crawl on my belly and push my hard hat in front of me because it was so narrow that if I tilted my head to the side with the hard hat, it wouldn't fit. You wouldn't fit. So first of all, I'm thinking, who was the first dumb redneck that went through this fucking thing? Was like, this is great. I'm having a good time. So I'm crawling, and you can't American crawl. This is all the crawling you can do. You got my face is in the dirt, and the rocks are scraping my noggin, and I'm pretty sure I've been punked. It's awesome. It was super cool. Get through there. Yeah.
That's a pumpkin-shaped rock moment.
That's the pumpkin-shaped rock moment. We actually found a pumpkin-shaped rock. That's where that.
What is the thing that didn't involve?
So this is all super fucking cool, and I'm learning it's not rappelling, it's safety lines, but there's so much super cool stuff we did, and we're absolutely filthy and crawling through the dirt and having the time of our life. Then we get to the embarrassing part. So the guy, Phil Hartman, gets up there. He's like, this hole's very narrow. I'm going to go through. You can go through if you want, but if you don't like it, you have to wait here. I'll come back out. So this guy who's probably got at least 25 pounds on me, maybe 30, and is a good 4 inches taller than I am, maybe 5. He goes through. This is where, if you've read Earth Core, it looked like he was being slurped up like spaghetti through pursed lips. He goes, and he goes in this hole. And I'm like, fuck that shit. I ain't going in there. Guess who goes in next?
Your girl.
The girl. The girl goes in next.
Gotta love.
She comes up to here on me,
girly.
and adventurous girly goes through. No problem. She's very slight. She goes right through that. So now I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure Phil Hartman is also trying to get this girl's interest, and he's got the edge. He's the leader of the pack. If I don't go in that hole,
he is the alpha at the moment.
He's the alpha. So now I've got to go in and keep. I got to keep my horse in the race.
You do.
Got to keep my horse in the race. So I look. This guy's so much bigger than me. I'm like, well, if he can fit through there, my skinny ass can fit through there. Keep in mind, I was about 30 pounds lighter then than I am right now. Probably 25 pounds lighter. I'm not all that big right now. So I think I'll get through there. Guess what happened?
Well, you went in for a penny, but you were not able to get through.
I got stuck.
Oh, that's the worst. I didn't want to say. I almost was going to say you got stuck, and then I realized that I didn't want that outcome to happen, and I didn't want to bury the lead.
My narrow ass hips got stuck. I am upside down, not at a 90-degree. I'd say, it's easily an 82-degree angle. My feet are kicking around outside the hole. I'm hanging upside down. And I mean, I'm not.
So your chest, your arms, all of this.
Yeah, free. I got through somehow. I got this through, but
your hips,
they were locked in tight.
But
dog.
you still, at this moment in your life, have broader shoulders than you do hips. Like you had.
Well, but you can go in like this. You go in one arm, and the guy's coaching you the whole time. Go in like this. Now turn your head like this. Now come in. Now that's through. Come through there.
Yeah, your legs don't work that way.
I got stuck, so I'm hanging upside down, and there is this highly attractive young lady who is got to be the assistant to the guy who led the cave tour. He's like, God damn it. All right, so here's what this is going to take a while. Here's what we're going to have to do. And he started walking me through how to get me unstuck. It was not cool. It was not cool. Finally got unstuck. Then we had to go back out. And I did not close the deal and get that number.
Okay, I had to ask. I was going to ask. I have to ask. You didn't close. Did Phil?
I would like to think so. I'd like to think both of them rode off in the sunset together. Sean Dyer says Scott had a booty back in those days. Sean, no, I did not have a booty. I still don't have a booty. It's literally like I don't even have childbirthing hips. They're just normal ass hips. And however I got in there, those hips were stuck fast. I was hanging upside down in front of a girl I really wanted to impress. And I feel
but you had the moves.
Safe to say I did not impress her.
You had the brain to say I was stuck fast.
Look at Rob. Rob says the only hole he got into that day.
Well, half into. Let's be honest, half into.
Dan says, good thing your fuel line wasn't frozen. Yes, I did not urinate on anyone in the tour. But it was fantastic. The whole thing was great. And I enjoyed it and highly recommend both of those vacations. What else we got to talk about, babe?
So I do nothing. We're just going to tie things up. And then Steve, just so that you know, you'll have to cut this part out, but we'll do the intro outro for Deep Cuts so that you have them.
Yeah, Steve, I'll
Will
record the intro explaining what the fuck just happened with this train wreck.
Yeah.
There we go.
But I do have a handful of things to wrap up.
Go.
Earlier in the episode, we were talking about Houghton, Michigan,
Yep.
and what's the other one?
Houghton, Hancock.
Hancock.
Houghton and Hancock.
And Steve in the chat room said, well, they are on two sides of the waterway, which is Portage Lake, I think, because I looked it up. And that means that Houghton, Hancock and Budapest, very similar cities.
Yes.
Very similar international.
That's what I thought when I went there, even though I didn't know what Budapest was at the time.
Buda and Pest. Different sides of the same waterway. So that's one.
Yeah, it's similar to St. Louis. That's what I thought. You know why? Because I'm a goddamn American.
I mean, but
isn't it St. Louis on two sides of the river?
No, two different cities, St. Louis and East St. Louis. But East St. Louis is a whole different city in a whole different state.
Whatever. They have.
If you ever lived in St. Louis,
they
they're
have
very
basically the same name. Jesus.
They do have the same name.
You know what? That's why if East St. Louis can exist, then
But
South Detroit can exist.
I mean,
I
was just a small town girl.
Born and raised in South Detroit.
I was with you. I was with you.
Took the
whole time.
midnight train. Go. Oh, sorry.
I was with you the whole time.
There was a kerfuffle on the internet a while ago where people were like, God damn it, there's no such thing as South Detroit. I'm like, he's from the south part of the city. Shut your piles.
It's true.
It's crazy.
Also, there is absolutely an East St. Louis, but it is not the east side of St. Louis. It's a whole different state and a whole different city.
East side. Okay. Yeah. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. It has been very mopey around the Sigler house for the past week. And this was very fun. Got to hang out with you guys a little bit. What else we got to? I think that's it.
I can tell you my going out on my own story in Mexico very briefly.
See, look, both Daniel Baker and Rob Otto are being pedantic. You're pedants.
It's true.
You're pedanting.
So that girl was on that train for hours and 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 hours until her boy joined as well. Because she was going anywhere.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Honestly, I hadn't really thought about the plot of the song at all. Just mesmerized by Steve Perry's voice. You're like, dude, you can say whatever the fuck you want. I don't give a shit. That's fucking butter and honey right there. It's great.
All I will say is I was 17 years old, and I went to Mexico during my high school's winter break.
Okay.
And I decided that it was too expensive to sign up for the sightseeing tour through the hotel because I was 17. So I signed up with a guy who was walking on the beach near my hotel in Puerto Vallarta with a tiny monkey, of course. And when I did that, I was with my best friend. We went on that trip. And when they picked us up in like a little golf cart. And then they drove us to their staging parking lot, I guess. And we got in the back of a pickup truck. And then we drove for a while, and none of us could communicate with each other. And then we got to a bridge where they asked us if we wanted to bungee jump with the bungee that was tied to the back of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I did that. I don't know why.
Sounds stupid.
It sounds stupid. And you had all the success markers. You had somebody actually check out your snowmobile and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then, and my BFF at the time did not bungee jump. She was like, this is unsafe and probably unsanitary. And I was like, yeah, probably. And then on the ride home, they offered us sterno moonshine that they squoze out of some sort of cloth into an old beer bottle.
This sounds very safe.
And
very safe.
Well, right. And I totally did the bungee jump, but would not drink the sterno. And my BFF was exactly the opposite.
Is she blind now?
No, we both survived, surprisingly. But I will say, neither one of those things were nearly as well advised as your snowmobile trip or your spelunking trip.
Yeah.
And yet you found a way to get in the right kind of trouble.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've learned valuable lessons here tonight. Number one, don't drink fluid strained through a cloth from sterno. Number two, when there are random strange monkeys involved, extricate yourself from the situation.
Well, I mean, we didn't learn that because it was a very cute monkey, and it did fine. We did fine.
Have you seen Outbreak? Huh?
I did.
Have you seen that? Have you seen the Hot Zone? Have you seen the Hot Zone map?
But this was just one monkey on a guy's shoulder.
Okay. We've learned that. Also, no matter how attractive someone might be, when you are 250 feet below the surface, where you can hear your own heartbeat, where you can hear the flow of your own blood through your veins, that is not the time for a love encounter. Just let it go.
Well, yes.
Let it go and focus on nailing that hole. I mean, getting through that hole. Focus on getting through that hole.
Except that you can hear your own heartbeat thing is so real.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is so crazy.
Again, they're insisting there is no South Detroit.
Even though
Detroit's big. There is a south part of Detroit and a north part of Detroit.
Rob
End of story.
Tell
There's
us
a
that there
western
was a...
part and a right part. And a middle sweet spot, as it's called. All right. So we're going, because we've been just chewing up all your time. We don't know how we're going to fucking end this.
Here's how you end it. More than one monkey equals no go. If anybody tells you to pee on your fuel line, no matter what the situation.
Oh, no, you got to do that. Otherwise, you're going to freeze to death.
Absolutely, yes. So
have you ever been in 40 below weather?
In Antarctica.
Okay, so that counts.
Yeah.
Was it 40 below?
It was. Well,
was it 40 below and I don't give a fuck? There's a heater in my truck and I'm off to the rodeo. Man line left, man line right. Come on, you fucking, I'm gonna get your right, step right. Get on the stage, you goddamn goof, get on. You piss me off.
Happening?
Fucking jerk. Get on my nerves. Well, here comes Danny's one ball man. He's pecking his hand. He's off to the rodeo. Man line left, man line right. Come on, you fucking, I'm gonna get your right, step right. Get on the stage, you goddamn goof, get on. You piss me off. Fucking jerk. That is a... I know there's a couple of gentlemen in the chat room right now who know that song very well. It's called "You Piss Me Off, You Fucking Jerk" is the name of the song. I highly advise you guys. You guys.
Weapon's second cover.
The boys in Super Weapon are not going to pay the royalties for that one. Sorry, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
We did have a earlier question during the story portion. So far off the rails. Totally true. During the story portion, we did have somebody ask about the origin of this story. So if you are at all interested, there is an homage in the Days at Deer Camp that's got made with naming some of those characters, especially Toivo. If you care, you can look up Da Yoopers, D-A, new word, Y-O-O-P-E-R-S.
Let me see if I can find that. That's a good point, baby.
To play it.
No, we can't play it. We'll get stream pounded.
So I'm assuming you will hear sort of folksy songs.
Oh my God, it's so good. The second week of Deer Camp. Here, let me just copy this link. I wish I could play this for you guys because it is absolute American genius. That is the second week of Deer Camp. I think Toivo's in there. Yeah, but you know what? Also, you got there's a story about what happens to his brand new turdy. Oh, what am I going to do? Why's my brand new turdy? My wife got me. I'm going to be in so much trouble when I go home.
Okay. Hey, you know what? The number of times that Scott calls me his big city girl, I've never felt more big city than right now.
Meanwhile, you got Danielle in the chat room going, "You can take the boy out of Sheboygan." Oh, Marble Gang says, I can't remember. Marble Gargler 69 says, as far off the rails as Scott's snowmobile was off the old railroad track, probably a little farther, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, you fell off the trail there, eh? Let me help you out. And actually, when you hear a gentleman that you've never met before, when you're lost in the deep woods and you haven't seen civilization for at least 2 hours, no fucking power line, no light, and so he says, "You in a little trouble, eh? Let me help you out." Your hackles will rise. I guarantee you of that.
And you can't even roll up the windows on a snowmobile.
No, you can't. It's a fact. You cannot roll up the windows on a snowmobile. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will do some triage in this recording, Steve. I'll get to that tomorrow. And thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Literally no effing idea how many people are on the stream because my dashboard is shut the F down. But that's about it, baby. And that's what I want to cover. So next week, I got a great idea for a show. You ready for this?
On Thursday of next week.
On Thursday of next week, here's our show. You ready? We're going to ask everybody in the chat room where they get their book recommendations and what compels them to buy a book these days. I can't believe I just thought of that.
Where and why?
I can't believe
what type of book you buy.
It like sunlight from the heavens coming right into my brain. Perfect. I'm so smart.
We should do the outro for Steve.
Yep. Okay, that's it. There we go. That's it for this episode of Deep Cuts.
On our next episode of Deep
Nope,
Cuts.
nope. Check it again.
Nope, that's not the right info.
Yeah.
We have one next week, which is November 22nd.
That's on the next line.
Oh, okay.
And we just got to fix. We just got to say, we'll just wing it. Say we'll try again to bring you book recommendations.
Start over.
That's it for this episode of Deep Cuts.
On December 4th, our guest will be author Christoph Laputka, creator of The Leviathan Chronicles, Rapscallion Agency, and Invenios Expeditions.
All right. And on November 21st, our next show, we'll talk about where people get their book recommendations. We're going to re-record this after the fact because I think we're done. I think our work here is done. I hope you guys were entertained because I had to talk about urinating on a vehicle, and then I talk about getting my little ass stuck in a hole 250 feet below ground. I had to bare my soul to all of you. Also, tell people I ran over my own computer with a fucking snowmobile. Yeah, that's been that show. It's been great.
You guys take care of each other. Be nice to other people.
Let's. You know what? I don't know how to stop the stream.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Oh, I think I gotta do this.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. And
love you guys.
Goodbye. Thanks, Danielle. I don't know if we're off or not.
I don't know either. Let me see if we're still
Do we have another tab here somewhere?
Hang on. Let's see what this is.
I can't wait to listen to the Yoopers. Well, it's 40 below and I ain't got a truck in here. My truck I'm off the rodeo. There it is. Let's see, but that's off too. Now this seems to be, I don't know what the hell this is. That's just me.
This is Facebook and it looks live.
It does look live on Facebook. All right, let's close this. How about now?
Still on Facebook, looks like. Rob's on Facebook.
Hey, listen, we are some high-tech motherfuckers right now. I'm telling you right now. I guess we have to close this. I have to try and help me remember this, baby. I literally have to close a tab that says I'm not on anywhere in order to get out of here. All right, here we go. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
How about now?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Let's see.
Are we still on?
I don't know. It's catching up. Give me a second.
Okay. I think we got to stop streaming from the OBS. Yep. Still
streaming.
Okay. This is why we win
I've
Emmys.
never peed on a gas line, you guys.
You know what? We'll have to change that. We got to get that done. I hear you can make